like, oh, we're gonna make Spider-Man black now? We're just gonna make Spider-Man black now? That's what we're gonna do? We're just gonna make Spider-Man black? That's what we're gonna do? We're gonna make Spider-Man black now? We're gonna make Spider-Man black? Well, why don't we just have Michael Cera play Shaft?
I'm gonna get right to the point, because I'm genuinely curious, and I want your feedback. Is there such a thing as a good woke film? I guess first I should define what a woke film is. Now I think considering Hollywood has been shoving woke entertainment down our throats since 2019, it probably was before that, but 2019 without a shadow of a doubt. So much so that people have started to become a bit confused to what it actually is. Some will say that it's diversity, and while it's a component, I think it's more of a red herring than anything. And even though all the films that push it hard and do race swaps, it isn't the problem in and of itself. I have no problem with diversity. Of course the SJWs won't buy this, which doesn't bother me because they're the most bad-faith people on the planet. I do have a bit of a problem with race swaps. Again, in and of themselves, they're not the problem. In Batman 89, Harvey Dent was played by Billy D. Williams. Samuel L. Jackson plays Nick Fury. Sometimes they're just the best person for the role, or they have the star power. In any case, before 2019, if it happened, I would be a bit annoyed. One, because of the fact that it pretty much never happens to minorities. You're never going to see Black Panther or Blade or Shaft be race swapped. But if you're a redhead, you better watch out. But now if it happens, it's almost always because the film is going to be woke as hell. Anyway, I believe diversity and race swaps are a red herring, a distraction, a shield so if the film is bad, which in most cases it is, the media is going to blame the fans. They're going to trot out the cast and say that they were bullied. And when people ask for the evidence, they will claim that this is also bullying. But what actually makes a film woke is its content and lack of skill in integrating its ideas into the film. Woke to me as far as ideas is the left's idea of equality, which is equity, which basically is equality of outcome, which is both crazy and impossible to achieve. But that never stops the leftist. If first you don't succeed, just double down. Don't reflect on if your worldview is actually helping. Just assume it despite all evidence to the contrary. Next is the lack of skill in integrating extreme leftist ideas into a film. Now while I believe the notion of equality of outcome is dumb, if the creators were skilled enough they could put subtext and try to sneak it in. That's what I believe Hollywood used to do. It's not like Hollywood hasn't been extreme left for a while now, but I believe it used to play the long game. Subtly inject their ideology in over time. They would make ideas that were palatable and influence the young, in which eventually they would become indoctrinated to the left. But that all changed in 2016. When Trump won, that was a signal to all the leftists that their ideas weren't exactly working as well as they thought. And in retaliation, they said screw it. And they no longer gave a shit about subtlety. It was all out war. Basically punishing the audience. Oh, you don't like our ideas? Fuck you. It's all you're gonna see now. Now I don't know what their endgame was or is. It's not sustainable. At best, half your audience isn't gonna like it. And at worst, another 20% that isn't an extreme leftist. To me, woke films are kinda like Christian films. You know the films like Left Behind or God Is Not Dead? Extremely heavy-handed, preachy, and only speaks to the converted. So with that being said, is there such thing as a good woke film? Well, there are two possible answers. Either by its very nature, a woke film can't be good. Because like Christian films, their terribly ham-fisted message ruins it. So basically, woke is inherently bad. Because if the messages were integrated skillfully, then it wouldn't be woke. Or as long as there was a leftist message of equity that was skillfully integrated, then this would make it woke. Now there could be a problem with this. Woke people would then proclaim films from the past were woke. They already do it with Star Trek. Basically that Star Trek is woke and socialist. Now I'm not an expert, but I believe the premise was society advanced so much that they no longer worried about resources. So the socialist label doesn't make sense. That's why I would like to ask the audience to help solve this problem. Tell me in the comments what you think.
I have always really appreciated the way you pushed back. When anyone tried to stifle you, shut you up, shame you, bully you, and you do what I wish other people would do. Instead of apologizing like a little pussy, you say, I don't agree with your assessment.
What's the word I'm looking at? Ideology is more important than art.
Way more, certainly to the awards.
Yeah. And it's just, it's like, ideology trumps art. Ideology trumps individual effort. Ideology trumps good. Ideology trumps entertaining.
There's two kinds of movies, virtue signalers and superhero movies. Are you bullish on the future of movies? Because...
Well, look, you have to always look at...
Are we going to get back to that place?
Look, this happens... This comes in waves. This absolutely comes in waves, all right? So it's like, okay, just looking at the 40s, All right, that was during the wartime, but that's also the time that you had film noir, where you actually, even though with the Hays Code, you had these dark, dark stories that were being told. But then after the war was won, then you had the 50s, which was the first of the completely homogenized decades, where you couldn't say shit if you had a mouthful, all right? And every bestseller, every play that was turned into a movie, if there was anything sexual about it or anything, that's all going to be drained out of the movie. It's going to be weaned out of the movie. It's just the way it is. And then, to me, it's one of the worst decades in Hollywood is the 50s. And then the 60s, pretty much from like 1960 to 1966, was the 50s part 2. Right. But then what we think of as the 60s starts in about 67, and that's when New Hollywood
Bonnie
comes
and
out.
Clyde.
Yeah. And that's an absolute positive response to the homogenized 50s.
So it's going to come back again.
Okay, and then it goes into the 70s, but then went into the 80s.
All right.
And that's why you came up with Politically Incorrect, because that was the first, this is basically 80s part 2, what we're living through right now.